guess, as long as I've been in this neighborhood, I think. I moved here in 1962, the second time. First time I lived here was 1955. But when I would go to the games down at Noco Park, and we would come back home, it would be late because you get off from work and then you go to the park, go to the game to support your kids, or either go to the center where they were on teams there. So when I would come home at night, poor lighting, potholes in the sidewalks and in the streets, and I'll never forget living on Sevier Street where I'd have to dodge the bushes, get in the street, skip over, and you learn where they are, the crowd, so forth. So we started organizing way back then, probably around 1975, more, I guess. I think 1975 is when we started organizing in earnest. And that was all of Southeast Greensboro. That was Gall Street. That was what it's called Arlington Park. And at that time, you could just see Vance Street and Bellevue Street, just dilapidated properties, boarded up properties. The neighborhood was somewhat like Lindsay Street and all those streets over where I grew up as a kid, Noco Street and Coad Street and all those streets. The neighborhood was pretty much like that. So we lobbied, went to the city and took all kinds of trash and debris and made all kind of overtures to try to get attention to what we recognized was just continuing blight. We were experiencing white flight too, because when I lived here in 55, all my neighbors were white, just about all. From Reed Street on over this way. On the other side, Reed Street and all has always been a black neighborhood. That's where people lived who worked for, who did domestic work for a lot of the white people who lived in the community. And I just thought about having an interview talking with Jim Melvin and how he remembered the neighborhood when Gillespie Park was only for white people. And his neighbors that lived on Bimbo Road that he called the upscale neighborhood. And of course it was. Because all of us lived within the proximity of each other. And that was by law, because during World War I and World War II, when the Federal Housing Acts were imposed, and GI, then there was the GI Bill, when returning soldiers came home and they were African Americans, they could get a GI Bill to build a house, but it had to be among the communities they lived in. They could not build outside of the communities. You know, they couldn't go out to the suburbs and start a neighborhood.
In other words, you're saying they couldn't go out into the white neighborhoods and build a house.
They couldn't go out into any place other than around among their own people. And that was the Federal Housing Act.
So
and
they
it's
had to stay in the black neighborhood to build a house.
So that's why we all together, the you know, those who according to your race or class, you were still in the neighborhood. That's why you had Bimbo Road, which was the prominent area, all over in there. And that was simply because of the legal act that was imposed. Even with education, GI Bill afforded you the opportunity to attend school, but then white institutions wouldn't accept blacks. So we just got a history of maintaining the status quo and keeping all of us together as a people. I don't think it's something we give thought to, particularly when we move on up and are able to move on out. You know, that's good, but we don't do it with a sense of history. We do it with a sense of wanting to belong, with the moving up, you know, and a sense of doing better. When folks are always ask me lots of times, why do you keep staying there? Because plenty of times I could have moved, but I stayed here, and we persevered. We've made some changes very slowly. As a people, it's no reason that the city should take as long to revitalize a neighborhood like this. No reason, except for the class of people we are and the color of our skin. And that's just the bottom line. You don't find that happening in basically white neighborhoods now. I can say that all poor people are not treated equally, because the case can be made by whites, and many of them in trailer parks and in rural areas. But many programs have been designed to try to address those things. But I don't think we come at it with a sense of history. Because if we did, I think we'd try to wade through some of that from the systemic standpoint and try to look at how the better conditions should be. But those with the loudest voice and the biggest pocket to hold the most money, and that's where the attention goes. So, anyway, I do this work because I believe in people. I believe if we understand our rights as a people and what we can do collectively, I think we would all do better. And the reason I do the work that I do is because I know people don't understand what real systemic laws, ordinances kind of keep us in abeyance of moving on and moving on. But anyway, the other thing that I have given a lot of thought to is the work I do and how I have been involved in so many different aspects of Greensboro's growth. I remember way back in the 70s when we had a bond referendum for schools. Say yes to 7. There were lots of bonds. I've got the papers in there, and I have to go back and look at things because I can't always remember. But I remember working so hard on that bond referendum and the things that we achieved and the things that we didn't. I remember after the merger of Western Long and Moscone Hospitals, and I was asked to serve on its first board. And the many things that the foundation did to improve on the status for people, from health care to all the things that would have an impact on the health of citizens in Greensboro. I remember we started the Congregational Nurses Program, and that's in churches all over the city. It's not in as many small churches in the predominantly black communities as I would like to see, but it's a great program that really looks at and helps people with their health needs.